I still remember the sound, the pop, the hiss, the crack that ripped through the night right before the gatehouse went up in flames. The fire ate through that stucco box like it had been waiting for permission smoke curling up into the rain-soaked sky while alarms wailed across the neighborhood. And as everyone screamed and panicked, I just stood there drenched and shaking, watching the thing I'd warned about for months finally burn exactly the way I said it would. They called it equipment failure. I called it justice lit up in orange. It all started a few months before that night. I'd just gotten home after a late-shift rain coming down in sheets when I noticed a tiny flicker at the bottom corner of the gatehouse panel. It wasn't the usual red or green light. This one was jagged, frantic, an electric pulse fighting for air. Most people would have missed it, but I spent 23 years in Air Force maintenance. I know what an arc flash looks like. I've seen it tear through metal, heard the sound it makes right before everything goes wrong. So, when I leaned out my truck window and saw that blue spark kiss the wet metal, my stomach tightened like a vice. The gatehouse wasn't fancy, just a 20-foot stucco cube the HOA had built to improve property value. In reality, it was a glorified box manned by bored security guards who spent their shifts scrolling on their phones. That night, there wasn't even a guard. I pulled over, stepped out into the drizzle, and crouched near the box. The puddles around it shimmered with reflected light, and when the next spark hit, I saw it clear as day, exposed wire arcing inches above standing water. I took a picture, then a video, then called the HOA's after-hours line. No answer. So I sent an email. Attached the photos, the footage, even a short technical explanation. I told them politely that this was a live hazard and should be inspected immediately. Then I went to bed thinking maybe someone would care. They didn't. Days passed. The flicker came back every night. By Wednesday, I had a folder full of proof and walked into the HOA meeting myself. Karen Hernandez. The board president sat at the center of the table, blonde bob pearl earrings. The kind of smile that says, "I already don't care." When public comments opened, I handed her a printed packet of everything I'd documented. I kept my tone even calm. "There's an electrical fault at the gatehouse," I said. "It's arcing near the conduit. It's not safe." She didn't even open the folder, just nodded, fake polite. "Thank you for bringing it to our attention, Mr. McMichael. We'll look into it." Then she moved right on to the next item, new benches for the tennis courts, because apparently that was more urgent. I stayed until the meeting ended, hoping she'd at least ask a question. She didn't. Nobody did. I left with my folder still in hand, standing alone in the parking lot, wondering how a room full of adults could be so willfully blind. Over the next week, I followed up emails, calls, another visit. Each time, nothing. Until finally, I walked into the HOA office one morning and found Karen sitting behind her desk, scrolling through her phone. Her voice was sugar and venom all at once. "Mr. McMichael, did you have an appointment?" "No," I said, "but I have a fire hazard." She sighed like I'd told her the coffee machine was broken. "Our maintenance lead checked it. There's nothing dangerous." "Your maintenance lead?" I asked. "You mean Roger, the retired accountant who changes light bulbs? He's not certified." "I am." That made her look up. Her smile froze, but her tone sharpened. "If we chased every little flicker in this neighborhood, we'd never get anything done." I wanted to laugh. "That's not a flicker, ma'am. It's live current arcing near water." She gave a tiny chuckle. "We'll add it to next quarter's inspection budget." "Next quarter," I repeated. "That could catch fire tomorrow." Her eyes narrowed. "Mr. McMichael, I'm going to ask you to calm down." And there it was, the phrase every bureaucrat uses when they want to paint you as the problem. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't even angry yet. But that line lit a fuse in me. "I'm calm," I said quietly. "But if someone gets hurt because you ignored this, I won't be quiet." She reached for the phone. "If you feel unsafe, I can call security." I stared right back. "I am security," I said. 23 years Air Force. I know a threat when I see one. Her smirk faltered, but only for a second. Then she dismissed me with a wave. I walked out, but I wasn't done. I reported it to the city, to the fire department, even to the HOA's insurance company. And when none of them responded, I started keeping a logbook, dates, times, temperature readings, everything. A week later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Cease and desist. The HOA accused me of harassment and creating panic. I laughed at first, then felt the chill settle in. That's how they win, by isolating you, by making you doubt yourself. Neighbors stopped waving. Kids crossed the street. Someone kicked my mailbox loose one morning, and a rock cracked my window one night. I sat in the dark, wondering if maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't that serious. Maybe they were right. Then another storm rolled in, and I saw the light again, brighter, angrier, sputtering like a fuse running out of patience. That was the moment I stopped doubting. I went to my closet and pulled out my old flight case. Inside was a folded flag, the one handed to me at my brother's funeral after an electrical fire killed him in his barracks. Same kind of failure, same kind of neglect. That memory hit me like a punch to the gut. I promised him years ago I'd never stand by and let something like that happen again, and that night I made sure I wouldn't. I started documenting everything, sending it to every authority that might listen. Nobody did. Until the night everything finally blew up, literally. It was Wednesday. Rain again. I'd just sat down with a bowl of chili when I saw the flash through my window, a blinding white flare followed by a sound like thunder cracking inside the ground. Then screaming. I dropped the bowl and ran outside. The gatehouse was engulfed. Flames roared out of the east wall, the same spot where I'd told them the wire was exposed. Sparks flew like fireworks, landing on wet asphalt and hissing out. I saw two kids frozen near their bikes, eyes wide, faces pale. I sprinted, grabbed them both by the arms, and dragged them across the street just as the transformer box lit up again. Karen came running in heels, mascara streaked down her face, waving her phone like it was a weapon. "What the hell is happening?" she yelled. I pointed at the inferno. "This is what I warned you about." She just stood there speechless while the roof collapsed and the metal gate fell flat onto the pavement with a metallic groan. The blast knocked us both down. Everything went dark power out across the block. For a few seconds, the only sound was rain hitting the ashes. When the firefighters arrived, one of them asked, "You, the guy who called it in?" "No," I said, wiping soot from my face. "I'm the guy who told them it was coming." The next morning, the HOA sent an email to every resident. Due to an act of vandalism or equipment malfunction, the gatehouse experienced a fire. Not a word about my warnings. Not one shred of accountability. So I called the fire marshal myself, Captain Ruiz. I asked if they'd inspected the panel. He paused and said, "Without making it official, that wasn't vandalism. That was failure, months of it." That's all I needed to hear. I compiled everything. Emails, photos, video logs, the cease and desist letter, and sent it to the city attorney, the fire department, and the HOA's insurance carrier. That last one mattered most. Liability talks louder than truth. A week later, I got a knock at my door. A process server handed me an envelope. Arbitration notice. The HOA was suing me for defamation. That was their mistake. I wasn't just some grumpy homeowner, I was a former Air Force safety consultant who'd spent years working alongside military attorneys. I called an old friend, Marcus Bell, a JAG lawyer turned property attorney. "You ready to hit back?" he asked. "More than ready," I said. We built a case thicker than a phone book. Every ignored email, every unanswered voicemail, every photo. We included the fire marshal's preliminary findings: electrical failure due to neglect. Then, Marcus sent courtesy copies to the HOA's insurer and the local news. Within 48 hours, the story broke. Headline: Retired Air Force veteran warned HOA of electrical hazard weeks before fire. The neighborhood turned on the board. The insurance company froze all claims pending investigation. And the city fined the HOA $25,000 for failing to maintain community infrastructure. One by one, the board members cracked. Simon resigned first, then Karen. She tried to meet privately with me and Marcus. She looked nothing like the smug woman from before, hair-messy hands trembling. "I didn't think it was that serious," she whispered. "You created a fire, Karen," I said quietly. "You ignored every warning. You retaliated against me for trying to prevent this." Tears welled in her eyes. Are you going to press charges? That's up to the city, Marcus said flatly. But if I were you, I'd find a lawyer. A week later, she resigned officially. The HOA collapsed under its own lies. The new board, made of real residents, real professionals, voted to demolish the burned gatehouse and replace it with open landscaping and a sign that read, "Welcome to Windgrace, a community that listens." No walls, no cameras, no barriers, just open road. I walk past that spot sometimes. There's a small garden now, a bench, and a plaque that reads, "In memory of the night we almost lost everything and the neighbor who didn't stay silent." Every time I see it, I think about the night of the fire, about the kids I pulled away from the flames, about the silence that almost killed us. I didn't fight the HOA because I wanted to win. I fought because someone had to, and when no one else would, I did. Because silence lets things burn, but truth rebuilds.